What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Yesterday we got the trailer for Venom: The Last Dance, the final trailer, and they introduced Knull, the creator of the symbiotes, as the main villain for Venom 3. And they explain that Venom has something that Knull needs, and that's why he's sending all the xenophages after him. And they talk about how the Earth is not safe with Venom on the Earth. And they also talk about how Eddie cannot separate from Venom. He doesn't want to. So in my breakdown yesterday, I talked about how this might lead Venom to going to the MCU, since they were already there in the post-credit scenes for Venom: Let There Be Carnage and Spider-Man: No Way Home. And as it turns out, that actually might be what is happening, but Knull might come with them. I did mention that if Venom and Eddie did go to the main 616 sacred timeline, due to the hive mind, Knull would still probably know where they are. Now, whether or not Knull has the ability to multiverse travel or not, how he would possibly do that, that is unclear at this point in time. But Alex Perez, the insider from the Cosmic Circus, released an entire article yesterday after the trailer dropped about what he has recently heard about Venom: Let There Be Carnage, about Knull, and about Spider-Man 4. And he gives a lot of details about what he's heard for Spider-Man 4, so let's dive into this article and break it all down. Now, the first thing you need to know, if you haven't heard this already, Destin Daniel Cretton, the director of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings and recent Marvel Studios project Wonder Man, which is in post-production right now, has been selected by Marvel Studios to be the director for Spider-Man 4. They are finalizing the paperwork right now, but assuming everything goes according to plan, he is our director for Spider-Man 4. And it also does look like, and Alex states this in his article as well, that Marvel and Sony are aiming for a July 2026 release date. Then Alex talks about how right now everybody is wondering whether this film is going to be street level or if it's going to be a multiverse film. Will Daredevil and Kingpin still show up or not? Well, there are 3 different sections of this article that Alex wrote, and all are pretty important, but we'll start with the first one, which is what I've heard. Let's talk about Knull. And I am genuinely curious to hear what you all think about this, because it is quite interesting, but let's go into it. It says, in April 2024, I heard rumors about Knull's appearance in Venom: The Last Dance. After doing some digging, I was able to confirm his appearance a few days later. At the time, the idea of introducing such a scary character like Knull instilled a degree of fear in me, which I expressed on social media. And Alex linked to his social media post, which said, "Please don't F it up," a bunch of times in referring to Venom. But he continues to state, mainly because a character like Knull in a Venom movie like this could potentially be very limited to his comic counterpart. But further along, I learned that Knull's role is not just a one and done. And this is where it starts to get pretty interesting, because we know this is the last Venom film. Now, as I stated yesterday, we basically know at this point in time that it's not Tom Hardy's last time playing Venom, but as far as an official solo Venom movie, this is the last one. So what does that mean for Knull? Alex P states, there are further plans to bring back Knull in an upcoming project outside Venom: The Last Dance. The idea of Knull appearing in another project after the Venom threequel seemed interesting. And after speaking to multiple sources, some interesting information arose. And that takes us to the next section, titled, What I've Heard, Spidey's street-level story turned multiversal roller coaster. He states, initially, Marvel Studios wanted to develop a street-level story for this upcoming installment of Spider-Man, having him team up with Daredevil to take on Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, following the events of Daredevil Born Again. Multiple villains from Spider-Man's lore were also in consideration for the plot of this film. New villains like Mr. Negative, Spencer, Smythe, etc., as well as some old revamped villains such as McDonald Mac Gargan as Scorpion and even Aaron Davis as Prowler were being considered as a part of this movie. Marvel still intends to tell this story, but we may have to wait a bit longer. So if the street level story is being pushed back, what story would take its place? And this has kind of been the big question, because what Alex Perez just stated is basically what everybody else has stated was originally going to be the story for Spider-Man 4. But unfortunately, Sony does still have some way when it comes into Spider-Man and the story that Marvel Studios could tell. Plus, not to mention, a lot with Phase 6 has changed with the return of Robert Downey Jr. to the MCU playing Doctor Doom. And I've stated this in a few videos, but I basically think that Marvel Studios doesn't completely completely know what Phase 6 is right now, and they're deciding it right now. We've heard from some insiders that the next few months are basically going to determine what Phase 6 is going to be. Marvel will decide what projects will be in Phase 6 and which projects are going to be scrapped or put on hold, like Blade and Armor Wars. But let's dive back to the Spider-Man story. The article continues and states, "Recently, I heard that the upcoming Spider-Man film might pit Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Tom Hardy's Venom together, with Venom: The Last Dance setting up the interaction. By the end of Venom: The Last Dance, we may see Eddie Brock cross over into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with some sources indicating that the recent reshoots in NYC for Venom: The Last Dance has to do with that, but that remains unconfirmed for now. Not only that, but I'm hearing that the potential villain for this film would be Knull, who is seeking to enshroud the entire multiverse in his darkness following its discovery. It's important to note that the Venom symbiote is currently in two different universes, the SONYverse and the MCU. This link may spark Knull to seek out Venom in 616 and be on a mission to engulf the multiverse in darkness. Now, in my recent Venom and also Spider-Man videos, I have been talking about this. I've been talking about how I have theorized that the end of Venom: The Last Dance will end with Venom going to the MCU. Now, I've heard rumors about Knull for a while now, but I didn't know it was confirmed until yesterday's trailer, so I didn't think Knull really had anything to do with this. And that's the really interesting part that I would love to hear your opinion on, because it seems like we're getting really convoluted now with multiverse stories. It seems rather odd to have Knull come in the multiverse story when we have the big bad about to enter as well, Doctor Doom. Now, we are in the multiverse saga, so incorporating the multiverse into solo films isn't really that big of a deal. So to have Knull come in and be the main villain of Spider-Man 4 and have a team up with Venom, that could actually be pretty cool, depending on how they do it all. But I would imagine that they would have to sort of end the multiversal threat that is Knull pretty quickly so they can then move on to Doctor Doom. Plus, not to mention, if Spider-Man 4 does come out after Avengers Doomsday, then Doom will already be there, and he will be the big bad, the multiversal big bad. So it will be kind of interesting to see how they do Knull. And keep in mind, they can kill Knull and he can come back later on. That happens in the comics. But go ahead and let me know your thoughts on that. But continuing to the last section titled Spider-Man Homeworld. Alex states, the idea of Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Tom Hardy's Venom coming together would be an interesting dynamic for this upcoming film, and one that I'm sure many fans have wanted to see. While I'm sure we'd finally have our Spideyverse Venom showdown at the beginning of the movie, giving them a common enemy would give them a chance to not sacrifice any character arcs they have by making either an antagonist. Also, Knull has some interesting origins deeply rooted within the multiverse, so the idea could be plausible. Who knows? Maybe Knull lost his Necrosword in an incursion and it slipped into 616 while he hid in the middle of two multiverses. The possibilities are interesting, and I'll let you all know if any new developments arise. And please be sure to head to thecosmiccircus.com to check out the full article and support them. And so here's the deal. I think at the end of it all, I think Sony and Marvel Studios do know that fans really want to see Venom and Spider-Man, a Venom and Spider-Man crossover. Specifically, Tom Holland's Peter Parker and specifically Tom Hardy's Venom. I know that there are a ton of people out there who love the Venom movies, but I also know that there are some people out there who aren't the biggest fans and think they're just okay. But either way, Tom Hardy as Venom, I think, is excellent. And I do personally want to see the two of them, Tom Hardy and Tom Holland, on screen together. Now, it's pretty easy to think, oh, Venom, Tom Hardy's Venom, should be in Avengers Secret Wars, and that's why he'll head to the MCU after Venom: The Last Dance. That's not really that hard to wrap your head around. However, Knull going to the main 616 universe from the Sony universe to be the main villain of Spider-Man 4 is quite interesting. And if done right, in which it would be in the MCU, so Kevin Feige would have a lot of input on it and a lot of say on it, so it very well could be done right, that could be pretty amazing. Plus, not to mention, we could finally link back to things like the severed celestial head, which is now nowhere. That was supposed to be cut off by the Necrosword. And we basically kind of had the Necrosword in Thor: Love and Thunder. In the comics, Gore the God Butcher got the sword from Knull. Obviously, they couldn't do that in Thor: Love and Thunder since Sony has the rights to Knull, but if he goes into the MCU, we could finally link back to all of these different things. It could be done right, and we'd have to trust in Kevin Feige, and Sony would kind of have to get out of the way, but if it's done right, it could be insanely cool. But let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Would you like it or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you can stay up to date on the MCU. And of course, the Venom, Sony, Spider-Verse, whatever they have going right now. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.